Thank you, Tony. I think I already said it yesterday, but we have some new people in the room. So in PNG, we're working very closely with the National Agriculture Research Institute, which is NARI, known in many parts of the Pacific. The organization is actually based in NARI because the institute realized that most of the technologies that they were developing and the dissemination part of it was taken up by mostly women. And it was sustainable because they were actually working in the garden. And when the scientists went there, they they could talk to men, but the end part is that the women do most of the gardening. 85% of the population of Papua New Guinea, out of the 10 million, they are farmers. So most of the women are actually doing the job. So with that, it happens to be that we were lucky to be part of the organization or the research institute. So the new technologies that they develop, that is, when you look at PNG, we have the lowlands, we have the islands, we have the highlands of PNG, and we have they call it the higher lands, which is above 6,000 to 26,000 meters. So that one is, the crop diversification is different. So when you want to help the farmers, you have to identify where the farmers are, see the resources needed, and what is the best way to help. Because as Tony just said, local knowledge is very important. When you want to work with a farmer, it has to be a farmer that's based from the particular village or the clan or wherever they come from. I don't know about the Pacific Islands, but in PNG, we are the landowners. The government comes to us. We live on the land. And then, of course, we have a lot of land issues when you want to develop our land. And we have a lot of other things that we have to address. So with that, there's a good part of it and there's the bad side of it as well. So in addressing these issues, we see that that was in particular the breadfruit, the one that we're talking about now. It was, thank you to Fori and PFON for bringing up a project like that to PNG, and PNG was one of those 5 countries that was identified. I think Tony just said already, we are the custodians of the breadfruit industry. I mean the breadfruit tree. But we have not actually worked into getting that done. So I sort of brought it up in the institute, because I'm on the board of the National Agriculture Research Institute, so I asked if that one could be taken on board. And we are doing it, so we would like the council's approval that the institute can be involved. Because you're going into the institute where we are not scientists, we are farmers. So we need to understand them, they need to understand us. So they gave approval, but then we had one German lady. She's also a doctor there. Her name is called Dr. Berta Komolong. Maybe some people in the room may know her. So she's married to a Papua New Guinean from an island called Karkar. And that island, it's full of breadfruit, and they eat breadfruit as the staple diet. So she picked up that one and she said, Maria, why can't we work on something else besides the small amount of money that's given by PFON? How much can you do? So now she's got something 350,000 pounds or something from EU. She just sent me an email last night, Maria, catch as much as you can because we are going the next step. That's my story. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you, Maria. That's great. Danny, we know you're passionate about the koru and you're starting some farmer-led research. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge those who help support that passion. As you've heard from Mike and I, nobody wants, and even Queen Pa, it's very difficult to convince our people to go back and plant the breadfruit. So I'd like to acknowledge Tibo Bates and my Auntie Elizabeth Godfrey, because I had to loan the money from them to get some plants from SBC. And we got 200 plants from there, and then started the program with the support of our traditional leaders, our arikis, and then got distributed 20 plants to Achu, Mangaya, Mitiaro, Mauke, and Aitutaki, and a little bit for us here in Rarotonga. And then through the support of the Breadfruit people, and also for Pifon, and with Carl's very convincing words to other sponsors. I don't know who these other sponsors are, but Carl is very persuasive when it comes to things like that. We managed to bring in, 1,600 plants from California. Karen, where are you? Can you stand up, please, Karen? Yeah. Karen is, you might say, the lab technician. She's in charge of what happens in the tissue-grown company in California. And we did the one in Christmas Eve, January 2022, and we got through all the hurdles, delivery, and this next lot that she brought in on Saturday with the Hawaiian trip, it got stopped at the airport. So these are the things that, it wasn't stopped by the agriculture, it was actually stopped by the tax department, by the customs. But anyway, we learn from these things, and so farmer-led research. One of the things we went through was getting the right variety. And it is a concern that if we're going to, once we address the food security issue, which means we got plenty of food in each of our islands, we're going to start looking into export. Now, when we look into export, we're too small. Fiji too small, maybe Fiji can get a market, but we in the Cook Islands too small to do anything. And so the only way, like Dr. Tusi suggested in that conference, was to all of us to combine together, all of us in the Pacific to work as one. Now, if we're going to do that, there's been so many varieties of breadfruit that when you have the flower, when the customer opens it, oh, this one is yellow. And then open the next one, oh, this one is white. He's going to say, oh, the yellow one must be off. No, it's not off. Different variety so, we need to find out how we're going to address the consistency so that the end product is the same all the time.
So what is the research that you're doing about, is it variety research? You're bringing in all those varieties. I guess it's a slow process with trees.
Anyway, we just decided to bring the mafala and the otea because we could not identify any trees here until Dr. Matairatu and Mike Tavioni identified the trees. But I didn't want to take the risk because we did that when I was doing the noni. Hey, we need noni. And we brought the trees from our own islands in Penryn and Manigi. And when we planted them, what was nice on their island, when it grew on our volcanic soil, they just became little marbles like that. So I did not want to make the same mistake of growing a long-term crop and then we end up with the wrong type of variety. So we decided tissue culture was the answer, so that we know the variety that has been researched is the variety that we've got planted. Now, the main one research we're doing now is the intercropping. And today, one of the presenters sort of solved a little bit of the problem by planting renga in between. So we wanted to find out what beneficial crop would mutual beneficial benefit for both. For example, if we're going to plant the taro, how will the taro help the kuru? And how will the kuru help the taro? And at the same time, there's always, income coming when there's off season. So that was addressed today. Now, the other research that we're doing is the actually drying of the breadfruit. So we've been drying it, cutting it up, then dry it in the sun. We even used the dehydrator, the home one, our power, average 2-bedroom house with the normal electricity in there, $200 to $400 a month is our power. Now for a heater to go for 2 days non-stop or 24 hours, a dehydrator, 1,000 watts. Oh, and if you're into business, the rate per hour is higher. So I ordered the dehydrator, and it arrived, and it's still in the original packaging when I saw the wattage of it. So we're trying to find a way of using our resources, maybe
Solar.
wood burning,
Yeah.
solar. I saw some of the solar. But at the same time, we've got to look at when a mama comes on her pickup truck with a ton of breadfruit, and we got until tomorrow to dry it. Those are the research we're trying to get, and we'd really appreciate those of you, like Mike said, way ahead. We are still in the planting process, but we want to work together with the processing. So by the time we harvest these varieties, we're already harvesting what we got, and it's falling on the ground. So, we need to make sure it doesn't fall on the ground. So once we get the breadfruit, we do have the chefs, the people that cook, to come up with the ideas of the products we get from it. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. And that's great. And that also sort of points out the in Fori, the project is looking not just at farmer-led innovation, but it's also processor innovation, of looking at the whole value chain. And so those are some really great examples. So thank you. Yeah. Father Petero, Tutu is well known for innovation and doing a lot of different things. What drives you to do research, and what motivates you? And can you give us some examples of the kind of research you've been doing at Tutu?
Nakatoni, before we proceed forward, I'd like to share a little bit of the background of who we are, the Rural Training Center. We mainly focus on young men who are dropped out from formal educations and then resorted back into farming, and then just taking farming as subsistence. And then what we are doing with them is forming them to be farmers, at the same time helping them to discover more of how they can utilize their own resources. In this sense, that we are adopting the principles of where they are from, encouraging of what they can do, and at the same time also, we're bringing in new ideas that can enforce or enhance the development of farming. As we've been chosen to be part of the Fori team, what we did in the beginning, the initial stage, is do a scoping studies of what is available over there, what are the knowledge. And we see that farmers have a lot with them. They are already being scientists. They are farm managers. They are laborers themselves. And we really do acknowledge their contributions within the society. With that hats they are wearing, we are joining with them in the development of this project, adopting the principles they already have, the traditional knowledge. So we form clusters within our catchment group, formations of clusters with the principles and adaptations that they already been doing, and then we adopt the principles, what already being practiced over there. Now, at the same time, we documented the traditional way and what are other things that are already being available, and also enforce or enhance what it's lacking. In this sense, what we did first is the soil regeneration. We are helping farmers to connect to the ecology, regenerate the soil, so that they can recreate a livelihood that is used to be there. And at the same time, acknowledge what are they been contributing to the society, which has not been recognized by what so-called scientists on the top-down approach. So our approach is more from bottom to up. And then we just working with them. For example, we discovered there are, where the breadfruits are being living, they left it so tall because it helps the soil to regenerate, because breadfruit leaves are decomposed more quickly and helps the regeneration of the soil itself. Those knowledge are being shared, the knowledge sharing from farmers to farmers exchange, knowledge sharing among them, and at the same time, traditional foods preparations for humans as well as farmers connected with other creation. They even prepare food for their pigs. There's a recipes for it. And that is not being adopted. This is something that we've discovered, and we'll move, and moving forward in this project, we're gonna document the traditional knowledge and make a booklet out of it, as well as the traditional recipes that hasn't been adopted by what's so-called researchers. But I do acknowledge they are there. Farmers are there with these big heads. They are researchers. But we need to acknowledge them. They're doing the hard work. They are implementers. And we are just getting out information out of them. But we have to work with them. In other words, what we are doing, we are working collaboration. It's a collaborative work of our organization, Rural Training Center, acknowledging the farmers' presence.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry. Minoru, I'll jump over to you. Yeah, you've been involved in a lot of different research as a commercial farmer over the last 20 years, I understand, ACR and now with the Breadfruit and among your own research. What have been, why do you think it's important for farmers to be involved in research, and what have been some of the lessons you've learned about engaging with formal research institutions?
Thank you, Tony. I think that I'll try and be quick because I know we're behind time, but I've got a lot to say because the pathway into research was a very difficult and very expensive one for me as a commercial farmer. So we cater for many smallholder but commercial and semi-commercial farmers. Today we're branching out now to take anything from any farmer off the street. Because of the work that we do linking to communities strongly with Māori Tonga Trust, who is working with 122 communities in Tonga, basically the whole country. Our work is very important in terms of linking it back to the community. So when we started, why did we go into research initially? It's because it's demand driven. It's because of a need of a gap in the production. And many of our farmers, including ourselves, were struggling as climate change impacted our production and poor production for that matter. So there was a group of visitors to Tonga from the IHC, which is the International Horticultural Congress, came one year to Tonga and they visited my premises, and I explained to them some of the issues we faced, and they said, how can we help you? And I said, I need technical expertise on the ground. The state of the Ministry of Agriculture at that time was quite weak in terms of research and extension services. And this is something that's across the Pacific, not isolated to Tonga. So the importance of partnership and strengthening that is important for all of us, because we can't do it on our own. We need the government support. Anyway, they asked me to advertise on their website for anybody that wanted to come and work in Tonga. So I had to pay over 80,000 per anga, which is about 40,000 US, to get a Venezuelan professor all the way from Venezuela to come to Tonga. He dropped it on me on the last month or two to say, oh, can you pay for my daughter and my wife to come along for 1 year sabbatical? I had no choice, and I thought that this was the only way I could get some sound technical support on the ground to help us, because I think research and improvement in production is a long-term investment in agriculture, as we all know, and it needs to be ongoing. We've had about maybe 10 research since then with different organizations around the world. But it's so good to now not have to pay much for research. We engage the institutions from overseas, from USP, Tokyo University of Agriculture, ACIR, University of Sunshine Coast, Brother International, now with PIFON and FORI. I can breathe a little bit. So I want to talk specifically about the FORI project. We've been asked to hear the voices of the farmer at the grassroots level and bring up the research based on their needs. So in Tonga's case, we've set up what we call a core innovation group. We invited core players and key players in the industry of breadfruit. We've invited members, representatives from the outer islands. We have Eua, Vava'u, Hapai. Niue was a little bit difficult to get to. So we brought them in when we started this research late last year. And we have the country coordinator who's here, Metui. Hopefully you'll get to talk to him and he gets to talk to you later to learn. I brought him over here to learn from each other and sharing what you're doing in the region. We've recently hired an M&E person from New Zealand to do a gross margin value analysis of the supply chain in Tonga, and their report's coming out soon. But not only on the breadfruit, but all the produce in Tonga. So we've engaged the services in the Ministry of Agriculture in Tonga and Māori Tonga Trust working in the background to do that. I think it's important if you're going to value add and support the smallholder farmers that you get the gross margins right. I think I'll stop there for a minute. But the importance of this is getting the right information down to the farmers with the right technical support. We've learned a lot along the way, but we're still learning. Yeah, thank you.
Wrap it up. Yeah, okay. Thank you, everyone. And I mean, there's some really interesting examples starting there, of looking at the possibilities of breadfruit in these different countries. And I guess, a lot of opportunity to maybe think more about how to put the farmers at the center, and make sure all the time that the researchers who are involved are kind of, that they're being driven by what the farmers want, that the information is accessible to them, that they understand how decisions were made about, varieties selected or technologies chosen for processing and that kind of thing. You want a last quick comment?
One minute, just 1 minute.
Everyone's hungry.
Yeah. Just one minute. Farmer-led research, we need it. When I came back 2016, I talked to one of our members, Tube Short. Tube, can you stand up? Yeah. I said, Tube, thank you. We're going to grow breadfruit. He said, oh, good idea. So it rained that evening, and it was a full moon, and the next morning, he pulled out 50 shoots already growing, and he planted them, and he rang me 2 days later, Danny, I planted 50 trees. Whoa, that's a lot of land. How much land did you plant? Quarter acre. How far apart? Oh, just like the popo, 4 meter by 3 meter. Yeah, see, that's how keen our farmers are to get into this project. Good on you, Tube. Today, he's the only one harvesting the kuru on Rarotonga. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of our panelists and to Tony.